So this week and next week, we're going to start talking about beaches, coastal lands, and then eventually how is it that people are altering beaches and coastal areas? How is that affecting the structure of these places? But to start off, we just want to know, how do beaches form in the first place? And what we see is that beaches are all going to be made up of sand, which are just big rocks that have been broken down into smaller rocks. And that's it. Now, these big rocks could be up in the mountains and then broken down into smaller pieces that wash into rivers and ocean. But it also could be rocks that are directly on the coast that are getting broken down into smaller and smaller pieces. So, erosion breaks large rocks into smaller rocks. And eventually they're small enough that they're either gravel or sand or small pebbles. That's what makes up our beaches, generally speaking. Now, I said you can find beaches either on the coast, which is the beaches, the ocean beaches that we're used to, but you can also find beaches along rivers and even lakes. The way this happens is those small particles that have been broken down from the larger rocks are going to start moving down these rivers. And there's a couple features of rivers that we see over and over again. Is as the river moves down, these curves right here tend to erode away the outside of the curve where the water is rushing into it. So it's hitting this curve and washing everything away. But this inside curve here, it's nice and calm because the water is moving past it, not into it like it does in this wall. So those smaller particles can start to accumulate on these inside curves and form beaches. And we see these all the time. We see these beaches formed on the inside curve, and then the outside curve is all scoured. Some of that sediment, if it keeps washing down the rivers, it washes through the deltas, through the marshes, and it can collect in these areas, in the deltas, which is a cross between, the rivers and the ocean. But it can also then be carried by currents along the coast and collect to form these beaches. So some of that sediment could have come up from the mountains down the rivers and collected on the beaches, or some of it could have been simply broken off from the actual cliffs and rocks that are found on the coast, broken down and accumulate to form our beaches. And that's it. So it's really not a complex process. Sand can accumulate on river banks or coastal shores. Okay. Now finally, once we have our beach, and this is going to be an ocean beach. This is not a river that we're talking about, but we're talking about a beach at the ocean. Finally, the beaches on the ocean are constantly changing. Even river beaches are constantly changing. As the tides go up, they go down. They go up, they go down, and their form changes. But you see some trends. One of the trends is that during winter, because you have rough weather, a lot of that rough weather and high seas and waves and stuff are going to erode the sand away. So that sand starts to wash out, and it kind of builds up a little bit offshore here as it's been pulled out from the beach. But during summer, generally, you have calmer weather, And that calmer weather and the calmer wave action will actually start to push that sand back up and deposit it on the beach here. So between winter and summer, you get a difference in the beach. But even day to day, you get small changes between the tides. So winter tends to erode the beach. Summer tends to build it. So that's a couple of different ways that we see beaches changing over time and how they become a physical feature in the first place. Thank you.